Building community and my heart of hearts is what this is about. Whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Facebook, I know we live in a society where everything's built around ROI. You gotta get a
Yeah.
return. You gotta do this. It's capitalism. I get it, but I think sometimes we dismiss the human element when we're talking about finance. And I was talking about this today on LinkedIn, where people are saying, now this is perfect because we're going to segue, right? So, um, somebody said, if you're going to be great at something, you got to be disliked. People are going to hate you, and yada yada yada. And I said, why does it sound like you're a Batman or Marvel villain to be successful?
Right.
That's not how, that's not how life works. I said, the reality is people get some modicum of success. And then when they get to that level of success, they want to go back and frame all they went through as some kind of heroic, it's the typical Marvel movie. Like, oh, my parents were killed and I became Batman, or I don't know, I get DC and all those guys mixed up, but I became this person and now I'm the Joker, or I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, no, that's not how this actually worked. But that's the movie you want to sell, because that sells tickets. And again, I know the boring side of things is this. Hey, you know what? Sometimes people are going to help you. There's things that are going to happen in life. Not everybody's going to hate you. People actually love you. People want to see you succeed, but nobody wants to sell that story. That doesn't sell. That doesn't sell tickets.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Growing Money with Sean Trace podcast. I've got an awesome guest with me today. Would you like to tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Kevin Thompson, founder of 9i Capital Group here in Texas. We're a registered investment advisory firm. We work with mainly retirees and or business owners, or high net worth or high income producing professionals like doctors and attorneys. So we help them understand exactly how their money works, how we can save most of that money, and how we can distribute that money in retirement. That's where we lie. That's where we invest money, and that's how we basically build our practice. Tax planning is a major part of it as well. So again, all things finance. And of course, you probably see me on these different publications and all of that stuff as well. So I'm active on news media channels as well. So I like to give my 2 cents. I'm authentic, and I always will be authentic. So that's what you're going to get today.
I love that. Well, see, that's what I feel is so needed with this, because, there are a lot of cookie cutter answers, like you should do this. But, when we were just before this podcast started, we were talking about Ilani's little world. And Ilani, I asked you the save, spend, and how to share it with others question, because I'm going to tell people a little bit about, I'm proud of my daughter right now. She's been starting her own business. So as I've been growing my business, she's been actually inspired by watching me and do what I do and everything. And she's like, Dad, I started growing my own business as well. I was like, well, her first business was in Minecraft. So she plays Minecraft online, and she built a little store where people could come and trade with her for different items. And she was like, one of the funny things was she had an employee that came and worked for her and was lazy and didn't do anything. She's like, I don't know what to do. This guy wants me to pay him and he's not doing anything in the store. And I said, yeah, these are challenges that people can have.
Yeah.
But when my wife and I went to the US, we brought back erasers, like little pencil top erasers, because those are like not a thing in Vietnam. I remember as a kid, I had them because your pencils, when you finish up the eraser, are kind of like worthless. But when we brought these back, her and her classmates were blown away by this. And I was just like, wow. And she wanted to start giving them away. And she said she was selling them. If she sold one, it was free. But if you wanted two, it was $10. I said, that's a pretty big jump right there.
Yeah.
But she was enjoying giving it away, which was a very authentic thing. It was like, it wasn't about the money. It was about sharing it in this connection. And I sat there and looked at it and I said, you know what you're doing is not a great business tactic right now. Maybe it is actually, but what you're doing is building community. And that's a powerful thing too,
Building community and my heart of hearts is what this is about. Whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Facebook, I know we live in a society where everything's built around ROI. You gotta get a return. You gotta do this. It's capitalism. I get it, but I think sometimes we dismiss the human element when we're talking about finance. And I was talking about this today on LinkedIn, where people are saying, now this is perfect because we're going to segue, right? So somebody said, if you're going to be great at something, you got to be disliked. People are going to hate you, and yada yada yada. And I was like, I said, why does it sound like you're a Batman or Marvel villain to be successful?
Right.
That's not how that's not how life works. I said the reality is people get some modicum of success. And then when they get to that level of success, they want to go back and frame all they went through as some kind of heroic, it's the typical Marvel movie. Like, oh, my parents were killed and I became Batman, and or that's, I don't know, I get DC and all those guys mixed up, but I became this person and now I'm the Joker, or I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, no, that's not how this actually worked. But that's the movie you want to sell, because that sells tickets. And again, I know the boring side of things is this. Hey, you know what? Sometimes people are going to help you. There's things that are going to happen in life. Not everybody's going to hate you. People actually love you. People want to see you succeed, but nobody wants to sell that story. That doesn't sell. That doesn't sell tickets.
Most people, and I think that I saw that too. The other day, someone was like, if you want to get ahead, you got to leave all these people behind. They are holding you
Yeah.
back. And I was like, man, they've been standing by you the whole way. Most of them want to see you succeed as much as anyone else. Maybe they don't know how you're going to do it. Maybe you need to be connecting to people. Like for me, as I started growing my business, I realized some of the people around me, they wanted me to succeed, but they didn't have the information to help me get to the next step. But they definitely were cheering me on. They definitely wanted to help out. But certainly broaden your group of friends, but that's still building a community. That's still building out and growing your space.
Yeah, and just because someone doesn't know how to give you that next movie to the next level doesn't mean they're holding you behind. They just don't know how to do it. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't sit here and tell somebody how to do brain surgery. I don't know. I'm just gonna say, hey, go do brain surgery, right? I don't know anything about it. So you're gonna have to align yourself with more people that are in that brain surgery world that can get you to the next step. So people mistake that, oh, well, you can't help me, so you're against me. No, that is a falsehood. That's a narrative that's designed to not only divide you from your cohorts, but ultimately make you feel like you're better than. And I can't stand that, man. I'm sorry, I can't stand that. And I see it, this Gordon Gekko mentality of like, and especially in our finance world, you see guys with the hair slicked back. You're like, I'm like, who are you trying to be today? Like, is this your character? This your character today? Okay, I get it. So it's just funny to me.
I literally like 25 minutes ago saw someone with the hair slicked back, so I know exactly what you're talking about, man. It's like I saw that. I was just like, wow, yeah, man. Hey, but it is. One of the fun things, long time ago, I did some acting in LA. When I first moved up to LA, I did some background acting. And one of the funniest things, it was one of the most fun things I've ever done. Going to show up to these movies, and for one day, hey, you're a doctor today. Oh, okay. And they dress you up like a doctor.
Yeah.
And you know what was crazy? One of the things that you notice is that people start playing the role. And so there's a guy like, his name is Travis, right? Travis is like, does nothing, works at Guitar Center during the day, got this gig during the week being a doctor. But on set, everyone's treating Travis like with respect. And like Travis is like walking, strutting his stuff, and like, you know what I would do. And other people are like, well, what would you do, Travis? He's like, I would cover that with, this is, and people were listening to him because it was the look. And it wasn't necessarily that Travis had. I would not want to listen to Travis for any health information. But,
1,000%.
When you get someone dressed up in that, and hey, I'm sure Travis in his domain, you roll up into Guitar Center and he can show you a thing or two about those guitars. But in the other domains, it's not. And so it's really interesting because we do have this preconceived idea about people who are knowledgeable and not. One of the greatest people that I ever met financially was this old guy that just worked at my old school. And he was, one of the senior teachers, did not make much. He was a teacher's salary, but the dude invested like crazy. And one day, I was like, what's it like to be a teacher? It must be tough on your salary. And he was like, nah, I'm fine. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I've invested my whole life. I've got, X number of million in the bank. I'm fine. And I was just like, well, how did you do it? And he's like, I don't buy what I don't need. And I was like, well, what else? He said, no, that's it. I don't buy what I don't need. And I was like, what do you not need? And he's like, most everything. There's not much that I actually need.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I know that's I talk a lot about that, right? Like we talk about America, GDP, consumption, 70% of consumption, right? And when we're having these discussions, why are we consuming so much? Like, why do you have 25 pair of shoes? Why do you, well,
Right?
okay, that's fine if you like it and that's your hobby and all the other stuff. But at the end of the day, you're driven to consume. And if we stop consuming stuff that we don't necessarily need, what would happen to the United States economy, right? It would just basically start going, it's a house of cards. So they put everything in your ethos about consumption. You need this. You want this. Look at this person. This person has more money than you. And the issue here in our state is that everything is built around financial well-being. This person's better than you because they have more money, or this person's knowledgeable because they have some level of wealth. And Scott Galloway said it best. He said, "Well, I went to an elite school. Hey, we all worked hard, right? We all worked hard, but at the end of the day, like sometimes people get breaks in life. Like I got a break. I sold my business. Now I have a bunch of money. Doesn't mean I worked harder than anybody else, but we have this notion about hard work and I'm a genius all of a sudden because I got this level of wealth that you have to listen to me. And that's the world we're living in right now. Where
Yeah.
I call it, we're a nation of C students at this point because we have a bunch of people that are C students that are running everything, and that's where we're at right now. But the back to the GDP thing, like exactly, don't buy what you don't need, and basically just live in your comfort zone. You're going to be very, very successful, very, very wealthy. And I think that a lot of people feel that they can't do it because they just want to have the Joneses, what your next door neighbor has. And that's that USA effect, in my opinion.
The keeping up with the Joneses is such a thing, man. I remember when I was growing up, that whole rich dad, poor dad, I had the two uncles that
Yeah.
were both wealthy, but they were wealthy in different ways. One of my uncles sat quietly on his wealth and invested well.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't flashy. Nothing was ever flashy. They drove Hondas and Civics and Toyotas. My other uncle, and I loved him to pieces. He was awesome. But man, it was the Porsches. He had everything rare that you could imagine. He had it. And he had an Arabian horse farm. Like who does that? Like he had
Yeah.
a whole Arabian horse farm. He had 10 Arabian horses. Why?
Yeah.
His daughter liked it. And I was just like, looking back, I was like, wow, man, rich means that you need to consume. You need to have more. And I mean, we would go places and I would see the state dinners, it was just so much money going everywhere. And I was like, growing up, I was like, that's what it means to be rich because we see that type of wealth. We see that type of flash. Quiet wealth is not something that's really shown to everyone. You don't see that. I remember once when I was working in Hollywood and I was working in this hair salon while I was doing graduate school, and I was doing their social media and working as one of the receptionists a long time ago. And there was this lady that showed up, and we was really high end Hollywood. Like it was
Yeah.
like who's who came in
Yeah.
there. We had actors and famous people all the time. And we were, I had one day that they called me up for drinks and they were like, hey, come upstairs. It was Oscar week. And I was like, I don't know, man. That's not my crowd. Went upstairs and I walk in this room and it's dark. And next to me is the guy who plays Dexter. I look over there. There's Matt Damon. There's Brad Pitt. There's George Clooney. And there's like all of these other people around me. And Anthony Mackie was right there. It was like right after Hurt Locker. And I was like, what am I doing in this room? I do
Yeah.
not know what I'm doing in here. But a week or two before that, this one lady came into our work, and she was just looked like your mom that had just got off work. She looked beat up and just she needed some work done on her hair. She came in, she's like, "Is there anyone that could do my hair real quick? I got a meeting that I need to get to, and I need to look better." And all of the stylists were like, this lady just looks like a bum, man. I don't want to work on her. And there's one guy named was Craig. Craig was cool as hell. Craig's like, I'll take care of her. And, I was like, and my boss, everyone's like, well, she might not have a lot of money, man. He's like, it's fine, man. I've got enough money myself. I just want to help someone look good today. And he took care of her. He made her look like, so great, got her all cleaned up. She walked out and my boss walked in right as she's leaving. And my boss is like, I really hope you guys took care of her. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, that lady, the lady that looked like it's rare, like whatever. She's like, she's one of the big heads of one of the studios here in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And and like it was quiet money, man. It wasn't
Yeah.
the flash. It wasn't that. And we don't see that. What we have modeled for us on social media, we have modeled for us everywhere is that flashy, loud wealth. But the quiet wealth is the really powerful wealth.
I've always said this. I said, who would you rather be? Would you rather be the guy who retires with, say, has $5 million of assets? Oh, he's got plenty of money, or the guy that retires with, say, 100,000, but has $300,000 worth of guaranteed income that he doesn't have to worry about coming for the rest. I mean, he's like, this is going to come to me whether the market's up or whether the market's down, versus the guy that has all the money, but he doesn't know how he's going to distribute it and in the sequence of returns. So it's all about,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about kind of just wealth. To me is stuff that you can never outspend, versus rich being like, hey, I got to figure out how I can keep it, and that's the difference between the 5 million guy and the $300,000 pension guy coming to the door. So yeah, you're right, man. 100%.
How did you find this path? Because talk to me about you started in baseball. How did you move into finance? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So started with the Yankees, made the big leagues in 06 and 07, finished with the Oakland A's in 07, and then I was designated for assignment in 08, picked up by the Pirates, and then I tore a tendon in my wrist in 08, and then how I got in this, I was making a little bit of money, so I started investing it with this group called the Stanford Company. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Stanford Company, but the Stanford Company, what I found out in 09, 09ish, was a Ponzi scheme. So when I was rehabbing from my injury, I was going back to school for my finance degree because I fell in love with the industry of finance. And then I see him walking across the screen in handcuffs, the guy that owned the financial firm that my money was with. I was like, oh crap, this is crazy. So I went into the industry. I tried to come back. I was getting a little old in the tooth, so I went full board and got my degree. And lo and behold, I just fell in love with it. I don't trust the industry, quite frankly, because quite frankly, a lot of the industry doesn't look like me, and they don't give a damn about me. I'm just going to be really honest. And so, who better to protect my money than myself, or who better to protect my community than myself? So, I'm here as a voice. I'm here as a person that can give financial knowledge and kind of bridge that gap, especially when people in my community come and ask me questions about, hey, Kevin, what do you think about this? I can be that voice of reason, just to give them a little bit of light about how, because a lot of people talk fast and they use big words in this industry. And my job is just to parse through all that, like, oh, that's garbage, that's nonsense. Here's what they're trying to say. So, but that's the reason why I'm in the industry, because I really don't trust it, and I've been a victim of it previously.
One of the things that I've always noticed is that the financial industry is it's very isolated, and it's this group of people that are like kind of insulated themselves, and they all understand it, but they all understand this knowledge that a lot of other people, I mean, how many times have we had financial schemes where well-meaning people have gotten wiped out? It's not once or twice, man.
Chuck Ponzi, Bernie Madoff, Alan Stanford. I mean, there's name after name after name, and it just grows longer. And then when the tide goes out on this next bubble, that's gonna come. It always happens. You're gonna find more and more and more. So yeah, 100%.
But it's the cool thing is that there are people out there. I've got a financial planner that I started working with. One of the most awesome people I've ever met. Just a down to earth, awesome human being who makes me feel safe about money, because I always was, I grew up in a family where, my father, I love him to pieces, but it was a conservative Christian. Money is the root of all evil, and money, we don't need to have that money because, the world's not going to be here much longer. And then sitting there, and we'd have these conversations, and I'd be like, Dad, I've got a daughter now that, you know what, I know we have different beliefs, and I love and respect what you believe, but I have to think about how to plan for her college. I've got to think about how to plan for, not being a burden on her when I get older, and these are things that are very real world. And the interesting thing is what I come back to is that beliefs about money are such a big thing. And there are so many of these beliefs about money that we don't even know we have. And they are cultural too, whether that be a culture of a regional area. I mean, because I see it between my wife's family and I live in Vietnam and she's Vietnamese and I'm American. And we have very different ideas about money. And and it's not one is right or the other is right, but it's just like you have these things that you don't even realize until you're able to step back from your own bubble and you sit there and go, wow. When I talk to people on this podcast, I want to actually, when I was flying, I just flew back through Qatar. You want to talk about money?
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's oil money
we were
right
flying.
there.
That's funny right there. We were flying through Qatar. All of the advertisements on the airplane were like, do you need an investor? We're here to help you. And it was like showing pictures of gold and diamonds. And I was just like, wow, it's there's so many different mindsets about money and wealth and abundance. And so, can you talk to me a little bit about beliefs about money that you often see people running into and how you help them, whether that be in your community or just in people in general?
So I have a bunch of my investor base spans from ultra wealthy people to like basically people both sides of the spectrum. And you see it. You see people that are like, they want to they're big they want to give everything they got, and they want to be huge in legacy. And you see some that are like, hey, I don't care, I'm not leaving anything to my kids, they can figure it out on their own, right? So there's always
Right.
these different opposite ends of the spectrum. But one thing I've noticed that's really clear is that um, people want to be happy, and what that happiness is not necessarily about the asset level that they have. It's more about not only what it produces, but okay, I'll put it this way: everybody does a really good job of planning towards retirement, but they do a poor job planning for retirement. And what does that basically mean? Yeah.
Oh, dude, elaborate on that for me. That sounds awesome.
So we can. Oh, I got this big asset. I'm good. Great. Oh, I'm ready to go. And then day one. Okay. So what are you going to do now? I don't know. I never thought about that. I just thought about getting a bunch of money. You have to plan for what does day one, week one, month one, year one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What is that going to look like? Because until you have an idea of what your day to day looks like, because now you don't have the 30, 45-minute drive to work. You don't have the 8 or 9 hours every single day you've been doing for the last 30 years. What's the rest of your life look like? And a lot of people are like, man, I don't know. And that's the scary part. That's what keeps people in the seat most of the time, because they're scared to figure out what's next. But for some, like the people that we're working with, we're like, we got to figure this out today, because that's going to be a month from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. We got to get ready today, so you're ready for that, for the jumping off point. Because the last thing you want to do is sit there and be like, now what? I'm just in my garden looking around. That's a scary, scary thing, my friend. Trust me.
I've had some family members who are dealing with that. And, like my dad, uh, I love and respect my dad. One of the things is, as he got further on in his career and was approaching retirement, he was like, I need something to do when I'm done, with work. So he went back and studied massage therapy and started learning to teach massage, because he's like, he worked in business and marketing. And he's like, finally, he's like, I want to do something that helps people. And he is still, he is 79. He's just come up on 80 next year, and he is still going strong. And he is just like, he's still doing massage, still teaching massage. And it's that purpose, because, it's a lot of people, they get to that point and they're like, whoa, what do I do now? My grandpa, he got to that point and he couldn't stop. He worked as a dentist until he was 93, because he's like, he couldn't imagine anything else, but it was, he was happy, and so that was important for him.
1,000%, 100. That's a 1,000,000%. It's all about being happy, and it keeps your mind and your body going. Because the worst thing you can do is go and become sedentary. That kills you, man. That destroys you.
It does. What money habits separate people who build wealth from those who lose it?
Uh, it's all about savings rate, man. I said this earlier, not on this show, but on a show before prior. If you have if you're making $100,000 a year, you can either save 4% in your 401k, right? Save 4% in your 401k, and let's say you get 8% in the market or whatever. What's that? Over a 10-year period, that's probably roughly around $57,000 and some change. Oh, Kevin, but you're forgetting the employer match. Okay, so let's double that. Now you have $115,000 over. It's $117,000 over a 10-year period. But think about this: if you have that same $100,000 and you just did a 20% savings rate over that same 10 years, I mean, think about that. That's a couple 100,000 sitting in an account. That's a 0%. You're golden, right? So it's all about savings rate. It's not about rate of return. Yes, rate of returns are good, but savings rate is the key. That's the most important money habit anyone can achieve, is having a higher savings rate. And like the guy said it at the school, I just saved my money and invested it. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no magic bullet to this. It's all it takes.
We want to complicate things, but
Yeah.
the reality is, you're not rich because you're spending money. You're rich because you're not. You're saving it. You're putting into things that are more important. How do you coach clients to handle wealth and handle money without letting it slip away, or just to go in the right direction?
Well, so depending on the client, of course, what's funny is how the psychology of this stuff works. Some people feel a certain way when they have wealth. They feel like they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
They'll have, I got $4 or $5 million. I feel yucky. I'm like, what do you mean you feel yucky? He said, I feel like I've done something wrong. I said, you shouldn't feel like you've done something wrong. Whether it's an inheritance or what have you, this is what's been provided for you. Now it's your turn to be a good steward of this for the next generation. So how I coach people is just basically being a strong steward to your causes. We have a lot of clients doing a lot of charitable giving, making sure that's coming out of their IRAs, especially if they're getting qualified charitable distributions, making sure that people have the ability and awareness to give money to certain classifications of individuals that they believe in. So my coaching style is just making sure that stewardship, heartfelt organizational mindset, that when you have this wealth, don't be afraid to share it if you have causes. And again, let people know, like, hey, if this is what you want to do in regards to putting this money at KERA or PBS or whomever, let's go ahead and make it happen. And I'll send the money out. I'm a big proponent of that.
There was there's so much about it of discipline as well. I was reading this one story about this this guy I think he was a American football player, and he wanted to buy a new Tesla Cybertruck, and and he found one, and it was marked up $100,000.
Yeah, I
And
saw
it was
this about
like,
his advisor saying no.
yeah, his advisor said no. And he was like, yeah, he's done. And I was like, the discipline. I mean, I taught children for a long time. And, like, as a teacher, you leave a cup with candy on the table. You know what's going to happen to that candy? It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone, because most of us, kids, adults, can't handle it. It's like, I love my mom. We bring back, every time we fly from Vietnam back to the US, we bring these pistachio cookies that are just absolutely legit. My friend Amy makes them here. They are so delicious. And for my mom, they are like absolutely like it's kryptonite for her. She has no willpower over these things. And like we were like flying back the next month, and we're like, hey, we'll bring you some cookies. She's like, no, don't bring me. She's like, no more than 4. And I was like, okay, we'll bring you 4. She's like, any more than that, I'll still eat them. And she has no self-control over these cookies. Other things she's
the whole
okay
box,
with, not
man.
she'll eat them, man. And we went, like, my wife, when we were back there last time, she opened her closet and she had like the little plastic containers from these things, and there was like about 35 of them in there. And she's like, I thought she gave them away. And my mom came in and saw it. She's like, no, I eat them, so don't bring them. And I was cracking up because, my mom was joking about it, but she has no discipline over these things. but yet you see it too. It's not easy. I remember once came into a little bit of money, and suddenly, and I didn't recognize this until I read the book, the Profit First book, and where they were talking about, like, if you have a bigger plate, you'll just eat more. It's like you go to a tapas bar where they got these little tiny plates, and you'll just eat less because we sit there and like, oh, hey, I've got $10,000 in the bank. Time to go spend $10,000. And there's this lack of discipline, and you have to reframe your whole mindset to sit there and go, you know what, I'm not going to. And it really is. There was someone who came on and they said, one of the most important things is like the 48-hour rule. You sit there and you might want it really, really, really bad. Can you give yourself 48 hours? And then in 48 hours or 72, come back and say, do you still have that same desire? Is there still that same urge?
That's powerful. I like that. I like that 48-hour rule. I never use it. I mean, I'm going to say this, like, I have a different mindset about things.
Talk to me.
So for me, it's like, I don't mind trick myself. Like, somebody was telling me something about, like, somebody was giving me some Tony Robbins stuff today, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna deal with this stuff today. I just, my mind doesn't need that. Because I'm a baseball guy. Like, I'm an athlete. Like, I'm just like, hey, if I want something, here, it's tunnel vision. Let's focus on it and let's go get it done. Right. So from an athlete's perspective. But maybe, again, but I do respect the fact that maybe some people need that. And I respect that. But for me, my mind, no, just get all that noise out of my brain. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it this way. And I can control my outcomes versus having some outside forces tell me, well, you need to work 48 hours. Like, no, man, like, if I want to eat these cookies, I can eat these cookies. Nobody's going to tell me if I can eat them or not. You know what I mean? But I know when to stop, So that's just my mindset. I apologize. That's just me, though. That's not disrespecting anyone else.
I feel you, man, and I love that, because for me, I'm the same. Like, when I sat down with my financial planner, I was like, if I tell you that I'm going to pay down debt at this rate every month, I'm going to pay down debt at this rate. If I say that I'm going to be saving at this much every month, I'm going to be doing that. And that's just, and I think, for me, I played competitive sports coming up. I'm a black belt in judo. I did Muay Thai. I also played like volleyball at the collegiate level. I wasn't NCAA, but I was NAIA, and we were D1. We had a good team,
Yeah.
But the thing is like, none of them are that great comparatively. But the idea about showing up every day and working my butt off in judo, how did you get a black belt in judo? I tell people, I landed on my butt 10,000 times. And then I got back up, did it again. How do you do it? You get thrown, you get back up. And so for me, when I see something that I want to go for, I go for it. And I think that we have to, like, and my nephew, I love the kid, but he's a little soft, and he's like, I don't want to do it. I'm tired. And it's like, so we were at the gym. I brought him and started bringing him to Muay Thai class with me. And so I turn around and the treadmill's on 1. I run back up. I hit the 6. I'm like, no, you don't. And he's like, oh, I'm getting there. And and he keeps turning around. He's slowing down. But you know what happens after a couple days? After about 2 weeks of doing that, me running over, hitting the 6, and then having him picking up and start running again. Now, running at that 6 is no problem for him, and it's like, you set the standard high. And I think, and that's one of the things too, like with training, because I started this podcast because of my daughter. She started asking me money questions, and I did not have the answers.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have the answers, because I feel like if I can instill the right things, like right now, my daughter's starting her own business in Minecraft. She's trying to start her own business at school. And she's seeing the problem. She's like, I said, well, why don't you charge your friends for those erasers? Well, I'm not allowed to bring money to school. I said, well, what if you created little tokens and you guys trade the tokens, or you had paper clips that represented something of value? And she's like, nice, I've got paper clips. I was like, but they've got to be special ones so that people can't copy them, And so it's like, but if I don't have that mindset, I don't know what mindset to kind of convey to her. So, but there is, it is a lot of a mindset shift that I have to go through. Where do you go to kind of, what are some of the things that you lean on to kind of work on your mindset?
I read a lot, man. I read a ton. So I went to the Future Proof Festival where I was doing a panel, and I got books. I got 5 or 6 books that were given to me. I have this Libby app on my phone. It's through the Fort Worth Library, and I'm either listening to a book or I'm reading a book. I'm outside watching sports. I'll just have a book in my hand. It's important to consistently get your mind moving in the right direction versus just vegging out and social mediaing yourself to death, right? So
Yes.
it's just for me. I read, man. I read a lot. I read often. If I'm not reading something, I'm listening to something. It's pivotal for my mindset because it keeps me engaged and creative. That's just how I work.
I love it. I think that, what was it? There was a great like director recently that came off. I can't remember. It came out and he said, like, if there's one thing that you can do to better your life, read, 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 and read some more. And then when you get tired, pick up a book and keep reading, because the knowledge of the entire world is contained in all of these books. And
1,000%.
you know now we have AI, but that's being trained off of things like Reddit, man. Go out there and get the classics, get the great books, get all these books. I'm with you. I always have either my Kindle, or like I've got an audio book plan, because doom scrolling, it ain't getting you anywhere. There is, and it's getting worse. I am not going to be like doomsday, but so much of the AI generated photos and stuff, and I'm just like, man, I don't even need this. This doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form. And for me, I'm super practical, because if it doesn't help me,
Yeah.
like, you're finding out about this thing, and in 2022 there was this, it's like, dude, does that really help me? Not really.
Yeah.
Like, for me, what can really help you going forward? But yeah, man, that's awesome. Let me ask you one last question. If you could go back in time and give yourself some financial advice, what financial advice would you give a younger version of yourself?
I would tell myself not to buy the 2001 Tahoe and not to trick it out. I got my bonus, man, and I did what all dumb kids do. I mean, back in the days, it was like, oh, you got to get the 22-inch rims, you got to get the screens and you got to get the sound system, and you got to get all the TVs. I did it all, man, and got my $150,000 bonus. I put $50,000 worth, and the truck was only 30 grand at the time, which is crazy to think about. But then I put another $15,000-$20,000 worth of just toys on it. And next thing you know, it was something that I enjoyed at the time, and it made me feel good as far as accomplishment perspective. But going back on it, I was like, man, I didn't need the headache of always worrying about if my car is going to get broken into. Like, I wish I said, why do I want to live with that? Like, why do I want to live with, hey, my truck, I got to protect it. I need to be worried about making it to the big leagues. Why am I worried about this stupid vehicle? And going back, I should have just said either A, get the same Tahoe, but just leave it like it is. And who gives a damn about it, right? So that's one thing I would tell myself is be more practical. Yes, get the Tahoe, that's fine. But don't do all the extra stuff. Who are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove? Why are you trying to be like the Joneses? Because my buddy did it to his, so I got to do it to mine. It was just kids being kids, but that's one thing I wish I didn't do. Even though I did enjoy it, I could have done without it.
I understand that very well. I think one of my favorite TV shows. I think I'm a little bit older than you, but I still think that I love the TV show Pimp My Ride back in the day, and I was just like,
God.
oh man, Exhibit in on there, and like they were doing the craziest things in there, and I just was like,
Put
oh,
the fish tank in people's
the
cars.
fish
Come
tank
on,
in the
man.
car.
I was like, what are you doing, man? No, but that's what's funny because I wasn't crazy like that, but I was just thinking, like, why am I so worried about this material possession? It's irrelevant.
Right.
And my car was broken into by 4 or 5 times, but I was like, why do I care so much? And then finally, when you get older, you're like, my next car is just going to be stock. I don't care. It gets me from A to B. It's a vehicle for a purpose, and that's just where my mind is. And I wish I had that same mindset when I was a child.